Got a highlighter and a pencil and your calculators. And here we go. What is percentile ranking? I need you to first start thinking about what it is that we're going to be doing. Okay? And I want you to add this note at the top corner, right here in this corner. We'll add a note. I left myself a sticky note last time I taught the course. And I want to add it because I felt like after marking a test, that's where most students were kind of getting stuck on. So PR, which is percentile rank, does not tell you the actual score comma, but only how your score compares to the rest. That is, if you can right off the bat, if you look at percentile ranks, like what is it again? If I say that your percentile rank is 60 or 60, it doesn't tell you that you actually scored 60% on the test. It just tells you how you did compared to everybody else in the class or in the data collected. Yeah. Yes. Yes. You started it. Shouldn't have started it because then I just keep talking. Yes. So what it does is it tells you how many babies essentially weigh less than that weight. So for example, if they weigh my kid, right, and it comes out to be 2.8 pounds, whatever. And they'll say, okay, let's look at the chart. The doctor actually has like a chart like this. Okay, your baby is right here, so you're in the 80th percentile. That means that 80% of babies usually weigh less. I'm a big guy, right? So my babies are going to be heavier. That's just my kids are going to be heavier than most, right? So yes, percentile is absolutely used in the medical field quite a bit because it's all about reference, right? Like, is this a good weight? Is it a bad weight? Especially if your kid is growing. Like when you have a newborn, every gram matters, right? Every gram, like literally, like they weigh your kid all the time because if your baby isn't gaining weight, they're worried. Like they're not feeding properly, maybe fighting something, right? Like so they need to act fast, right? So yeah, the term percentile, there it is, percentile, has the same base term as percent or percentage, right? So it's out of 100 basically when we come up with our percentile calculation. Percentiles are used to organize sets of data so that you can see, right, how one value compares to the other. Okay, it's comparison. Okay, a percentile rank indicates the percentage of values, right? Percentage of values that are lower than the given number. Okay. If a number is said to be in the 60th percentile, right? So let's say you see that word, like somebody says 60th percentile, it means that 60% of the numbers in the set are below the given number. Let me give you a little bit of a visual here. So when we're ranking, when we use percentile rank, it's going to go from 0 to 100, let's say. And halfway, this is a terrible line, right? It's like but halfway you have the 50th percentile, right? So if you're in the 60th percentile, you're like just above it, right? This is the 60th right here. That means that 60%, right? 60% of values are below that value. That's what the percentile rank is telling us. Okay, it doesn't tell us how heavy you're, right? Like if I just said my baby or my a newborn is in the 60th percentile when it comes to weight, we don't know how heavy, but we do know that it's heavier than most, right? If I say 60%, that means 60% of babies weigh less, so that's all we know. We don't know the weight per se. Sometimes we do, depending on the question. Percentile rank indicates where a value stands. There it is. Where a value stands respect to the other values. That's another way of looking at percentile rank. Okay. A percentile rank can be calculated using the following formula, where B is the number of values below and N is the total number of values. So if you're adding to your study sheet, then this one that I'm about to box in, you should definitely have that on your study sheet. But it's useless if you don't know what B and N stand for. So I would quickly just on the side say that B is the values below, just that quick, and N is the total values. B is the values below, N is the total values considered. And watch the note here. Since PR is a rank, we use whole numbers only. When you're ranking someone, or when you're ranking a data point, you might come up with a decimal. We need to round it. We do not use percent. If you use the percent symbol, I have to take marks off because that's not the right answer. What am I talking about here? Let's do an example. Let's say you're using this formula and you're calculating the percentile rank of a certain weight, and you end up with something like this: 5 divided by 7. So there's 7 total values. 5 values are below the number you're considering. So if you go 5 divided by 7 times 100, just write this down for now. You get this, 71.42. You cannot leave it like that. We go 72nd. I tend to round up, but if you round down, that's fine. But put it this way, right? If you're in the 71st point something, you technically have people below you, so put them in the 72nd percentile, and there you go. There's a debate. You can go online and Google it. Not that you would, but I don't blame you if you would. I don't know if you see it here. Percentile, a number from 1 to 99 that shows what percentage of values of data are lower than a given value. The 1 to 99, some people say it goes from 0 to 100. Some say, well, no, you can't be 100. You can't be in the 100th percentile because then 100% of values would be lower than that value, right? But what about yourself? Like, let's say I consider my weight. I'm part of that data collection. How come 100% of values are lower than me? I have to include me, so it can only be 99 or lower. So we won't worry about that. We'll just calculate the percentile rank and know what it means. That is important to me. So let's dive into our first example here. Looking at my time, I want to make sure I have enough time left. The players on a volleyball team have the following heights. So we're talking about heights. I will underline that or highlight it. Emergency or? Okay, go. So here are the heights listed. In this case, they do list them, so that's great. Calculate the percentile rank. So it's something we calculate, folks. Calculate the percentile rank of the players with the following heights. And I want you to explain your answer as well, so you know what we're talking about. It's actually not that bad, folks. It's not that bad at all. So if it's percentile rank, you need two things. You need B and you need N. Okay? B is the values that are lower than 172. So let's go to our chart. I will underline all the heights that are less than 172. So 1, skip, 2, 3, skip, skip, skip. This one is lower, right? So I'm underlining. This one is lower. Is equal. Can I count that one? Nope. I need to go only values that are below. So I'm skipping that one. This player is shorter. This one is not. So now I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values. 6. What do they represent? Heights, right? 6 heights that are lower than 172, right? That's what B is doing. Like you're looking through your data set and you're figuring out how many values are lower than that one. N is the total. So we just count 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. We have 12 total heights. You can call it player if you want, players, right? But there's 12 heights that we're considering. So once you have B and N, you just go PR is equal to 6 divided by 12, right? B divided by N times 100. Everybody should see that 6 divided by 12 is going to be 0.5 times 100 gets you exactly in the 50th percentile. And we tend to do that, we add TH or ND or 73rd, right? That's what we tend to do. You don't have to. If you're not sure, just leave it. Alternate notation, or we go like this. Some textbooks use PR 50, like your percentile rank 50. So they're saying the exact same thing. So I know some of my worksheets say that they stated like that. It's the same thing. Let's explain this now. What that means is when you see this number, it means that 50% of values, oh, sorry, not values, heights. 50% of players, I'll do that, players are shorter than 172 centimeters. That's what you just determined. Or you can say 50% of the heights are less than 172. It is all valid. It's all good. Let me just zoom in a little bit. So just because we can, there it is. That is the explanation. And you'll see the pattern just now. Are you getting it? I hope so. Let's try. What about if I'm considering the 190? That's my the height I'm considering. Let's figure out how many players would be shorter than it. And total, I know it's 12, right? Like there's no doubt about that. Let's just figure out this part. So you go back and you just count. This one is, this one is, this one is, this one, this one, this one. You can't count 190 itself, but you can count that one, this one, and this one. So basically, all of the heights except for 190 would be shorter. So we have 11 heights lower than 190 centimeters. I want you to think of fill in the blank. You can have a class of 20 and let's say 15 students scored less than fill in the blank, right? You just count how many students would score less, and then so we're not considering the mark itself in our calculation. It's just the number of values below. So PR would be 11 divided by 12 times 100. This one is probably going to give us a decimal. sorry, I forgot to multiply by 100, right? So that's 91.67 or 6 repeated, right? 91.6 that repeats. So we just go, you can go arrow like that, and I'm going to go 92nd or, sorry, PR 92, like that. They're both saying the exact same thing. PR 92 or 92nd, or just 92, like don't write anything else. What does that mean? Explain it. 92% of players are shorter than 190 centimeters. Or you could have, if that player had a name attached to it, let's say Johnny's height is 190, find percentile rank for Johnny, then we could have said 92% of players are shorter than Johnny if you wanted to. In this case, we don't have that information. So that's basically percentile rank. So now I'm going to give you some variations of that formula. It's going to just a slight variation. We're going to go on the back side of this. 133. Okay. Babies, we're going to talk babies here. St. Boniface is weighing all babies born at the hospital. Daniel is 7 weeks old and his weight placed him in the 70th percentile. When you see that, I want you to highlight or underline that. Right, you're in the 70th percentile. Okay. So now we don't know the actual weight of Daniel. We just know that whatever weight, he's in the 70th percentile. Pretty heavy baby, right? So if 200 babies, if there are 200 babies, this is our N, right? This, can we go under this one here that I highlighted and just say that this is PR? I know PR, I know the total number of babies, but watch this. How many would weigh less? How many would weigh less than Daniel? So this is basically, they're asking you, hey, can you figure out what B is? And so what I want you to do is this. Take your percentile rank, divide it by 100, and get that into a decimal. Why am I doing that? Because if you look at the original formula for percentile rank, it's B divided by N times 100. If you divide your percentile rank by 100 right away, you get rid of that times 100 on the original formula. So it's a lot easier to work with, right? You do that, you clean that up. And so you basically just insert the 0.7 in for PR. And we want to know what B is. We know that N is 200 babies. And here's where you do the trick that I showed you, right? Put the 1 underneath the left side, and then you cross multiply and divide. Right, so B is 200 times 0.7 divided by 1. Obviously, you're not going to enter that into your calculator, but 200 times 0.7, that's 140 babies, way less. So I would say get rid of the 70, right? Divide by 100. That way you can get rid of that times 100 on your original percentile rank formula. Okay. B. Emily's weight puts her in the 55th percentile. So go ahead and highlight that. Right? You know this is important. So we know that this is PR. They give you the percentile rank. 45 babies weigh less than Emily. That means that B is equal to 45. How many babies were there, right? How many babies were there? N is what they're asking you for. So I'm going to do the same thing as before. 55 divided by 100. That gives you 0.55. And I like to show that, right, on my formula here, I get rid of that times 100 there. I do that because I'm dividing my percentile rank, and I don't need to deal with this. And at 0.55 is equal to, you know that the number of babies that weigh less would be 45, and N is what you're interested in. So you put the 1 under here, and in this case you cross multiply down, right, because the 45 is up here, multiply down, divide up. So it's 45 times 1 divided by 0.55. And that is probably going to give us a decimal. Let's see here. Yeah, so we can't have that, right? That keeps going. So you just round it, approximately 82 babies. So if that is the information we were given, right, then we work backwards and we figure out, oh, that means that there's 82 babies that were considered in this particular case, right, for Emily's percentile rank. Question, do we know how many babies weighed the same as Daniel or Emily? We do not have enough information for that. Okay. We don't have enough info, right? A list with all weights is required. Either a list of all weights, or if they would just flat out tell you, right, this is how many weigh less, this is how many weigh more, so figure it out from there. But based on the information we have, there's not enough to go by. And here's the one last one that is a bit more challenging. But remember, I always go back to the original. Okay. Watch D. If there are a total of 250 babies, I will highlight that or circle that and say that N is right there. 5 weigh the same as Leanne. 60 weigh more than Leanne. Calculate the percentile rank for Leanne's weight. Remember, we don't care about the actual weight, Leanne's weight. We don't care about that. We care about, like, this is comparing everything else. So we need to do a little bit of work here. To find, follow me here please, okay? To find how many are lower, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to take the total number of babies. I'm going to take away, right, 5 with the same weight. So I'm going to take away 5 babies from that total. I have to take away 60 weigh more. And what else do I have to do? There's one more. Not multiplied by 100 yet, but if you go back to the heights of the players, remember the 190? When we went through the height, we saw 190, did we count that towards our number of players below? We didn't, right? Like on the previous page here, you're probably wondering, what do you mean, Mr. Erickson? Remember when this is 190, let's say this is Johnny, right? When we came across Johnny's weight, we did not include that in our calculation. So for this one, we have to take the total, take away the ones that weigh the same, take away the ones that weigh more, and take away Leanne. Okay. We have to take away Leanne from the total. So watch this. This is 250 minus 5 minus 60 minus Leanne. Because B is concerned with the number of babies, in this case babies, right, that weigh less. So that's 250 minus 66. Like we take away 66 at the end of the day. And that is 184 babies weigh less. So with all that information, they had to give you quite a bit, right? They had to give you how many weigh the same, how many weigh more, and Leanne itself also needs to be subtracted there when it's this way. Calculate the percentile rank. So now we can go ahead. PR is equal to 184 over 250 babies times 100. That's sorry, times 100. That's 73.6. You can't leave that. Please, on your study sheet, just tell yourself I cannot have a percent symbol and I cannot have a decimal as my final answer. So I just go, I'm going to go 74th or PR 74 like that. It's kind of like a subscript. Both of these are acceptable answers. So let's explain that answer. 74% of babies weigh less than, we don't know Leanne's weight, so we have to go with her name. Right? We can't go with anything else. That's percentile rank in a nutshell. We'll do a bit more tomorrow. But this is the last new thing that we're covering. Okay, so tomorrow I will go over some of the weighted mean and just get you ready for the test. Basically, we'll AC. Today is Tuesday, so we have tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday before the test. Okay. You want to give that a try real quick here before we go with at least one question. It shouldn't take you longer than a couple of minutes, to be honest. But watch this. In the following data sets, calculate the percentile rank of number 12. So if 12 is the number that you're going by, try to rank it in this set and then also rank it in this set here on B. And I'll give you the answers. I arranged it for you. Look at that. It's an arranged set. So if you want to peak, you should get 20th for that one. And 50th for that second set.